Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. Welcome to Weigh-Ins, an MMA spinoff series of the Ginger and the Beard podcast. I'm AJ, aka The Ginger.
And I'm Reese, aka The Beard.
Tonight we're talking about Anderson Silva's retirement, the matchup being made between Israel Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz, and the attempted robbery of Jon Jones' house.
We're also talking about McGregor versus Poirier 2 and giving our predictions on the upcoming fight night main event, Thiago Santos versus Glover Texiera. But before we get into all of this, how's your week so far, man?
It's been good, man. So far, so good. We're Tuesday. We're looking good. It's a productive week so far. Nothing too crazy has happened yet. I'm drinking a delicious coffee Aleworks. I think it was called Coffee House or something like that from Aleworks. It's very tasty, and yeah, can't ask for much more than that. How about you, man? How's your week?
Yeah, man, status quo, nothing crazy happening, just your normal average Tuesday. I got nothing, man. I really got nothing going on. So
yeah, actually, real quick breaking news, guys, related to the topic of this podcast. Took my son Kai to his third karate class tonight.
Sweet.
And he earned his white belt. So congrats to Kai.
Nice, man. Nice.
I can officially call him Cobra Kai.
Has he tried kicking you yet? I just want to.
No, so he does did the practice kicks today. Like you hold up this piece of X-ray paper. I'm not sure why they use X-ray paper. I think mainly because it's durable and it makes a lot of noise when they kick it. But
okay.
He was putting in some brutal kicks, man. I'm like, dude, if I took one of these kicks to the nose, I'd have a broken nose. For a 4-year-old,
oh my,
he's got some power. So watch out, UFC. Cobra Kai is coming at you.
Cobra Kai.
So
Kai Cobra. Yeah, dude. So don't sit on the ground anymore, I guess.
I know, man. I'm serious, dude. It's like he was kicking that thing out of my hand a couple of times. I was quite impressed. But yeah, I'm super proud of him for earning that white belt. So it can only go up from here. It's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, man. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Before we get into the juicy details, I want to give a quick reminder that you can support our show by subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And most importantly, guys, share this episode with a friend. That goes the furthest possible, and we really appreciate your support. All right, man, let's get into this.
Well, I'll go ahead and start us off then, man. We got Anderson Silva. Got some news about Anderson Silva here. And his non-committal retirement. So kind of everything going into this fight with Uriah Hall. The expectation was that he was going to be taking those gloves off in the middle of the ring, throwing those suckers down and saying, you know what, that's it, guys. It was fun. I'm out. And that's not what happened. So we had the post-fight interview. Anderson first said that he was going to be, but that this was going to be his last fight for him. Right. But then, after the post-fight interview, there was a more direct question from Michael Bisping. He sort of backtracked and said that he needed to go home, talk to his team, and then he would see. And that's not good news, really, when you're the big boss, man, when you're the baldy boss Dana White said, that's not cool, man. He said that he regretted letting him fight at all. And he's not going to let him fight in the UFC anymore. Which I can understand. Cause Anderson hasn't won a fight in a really long time. His last win was against Derek Brunson 3 years ago now, I think. And the last win before that was, before he started losing, before he lost to Chris Weidman, which I can't remember who it was. That I think it was Chael Sonnen. I think his last win was against Chael Sonnen, and then there was an overturned fight against Nick Diaz because he tested positive for PEDs. Right. So, yeah, man, it's been a long time now since he's really had any success, and I think it's probably best that he not be allowed to fight in the UFC. But I do think that he should have taken the higher ground and thrown the gloves down and kept his word, right?
Yeah, I think just some fighters have a hard time with this, or just athletes in general. I mean, you see guys in football and that do the same thing. They just don't it's kind of like you don't know what else to do. This is your entire life. You've grown up doing nothing except for fighting. So when this time comes, like, you're not sure where you're going to go from there. So, we talked about it a little bit on our last episode. He could potentially go into coaching, or, I don't know. There's a few different things he could do if he wanted to stay in the sport. But yeah, I think I agree. I think at, what is he, 45 or something like that?
Yeah, 45.
As good as he still looks, as in shape as he still is, it's just you're just not the same person. People are describing him as a shell of himself. Even having to sit down for that post-fight, press conference, which I don't know how much of that I really attribute to his physical fitness, as opposed to just feeling probably all those emotions in that moment and just being overwhelmed with all those feelings. I mean, if you watch back what happens after the fight, he sits in the middle of the octagon for, I don't know, I want to say probably close to 10 minutes, just like absorbing the moment. And if you think about it, there's nobody in the stands. Can you imagine the feeling probably for Anderson Silva sitting in that octagon if he had thousands of fans surrounding him, probably cheering, until he actually left the arena? It would probably be pretty intense. But regardless, that's a lot of emotion for somebody to kind of have to reckon with in that moment. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the post-fight interview, he said, "Yeah, this is my last one," and then like immediately backtracks. He's like, "Well, we'll see." But yeah, I mean, I think Dana makes the right call coming out and saying he'll never let him fight again in the UFC. I was reading some articles. It sounded like Dana may have been, pushing for this fight with Uriah Hall not to happen. Of course, I'm not sure how much of that is actually true, but he's basically saying I did something that I didn't agree with. So, implying that he wasn't really in agreement with this fight to begin with, but I guess there's other powers that be inside of the UFC that kind of wanted to see it happen. But yeah, I think it's the right call, not letting him fight in the UFC again. I think, yeah, I mean, you got to at some point look out for these people. You got to look out, just like coaches have to look out for their fighters while they're in the octagon. The promotion itself has to look out for people and make sure they're not going in there and getting themselves hurt unnecessarily.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think that they should have let this fight happen. But the fight did happen, and just like it was really boring. I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the fights that, it's an entertainment sport, right? So it's all about, Dana White's upset because it wasn't entertaining, and a lot of his fights haven't really been that entertaining because they're slow, and even the Israel Adesanya fight was, it was there was showboating on Izzy's side, which really made it kind of work, but if it was just Anderson Silva, there's really not much going on there. And Uriah Hall, I know how much you love him, dude. He's gun shy. He is so gun shy. I was so surprised by that. I was like, what is going on here? Like, why are they not, going after one another? But, maybe it's just because of how Anderson fights, and that's kind of, he lulls you into his game where it's very slow, and when you're fighting him, you kind of have to fight him that way, because if you try and rush and, get impatient, that's where he's best. So I think that's probably what it is. So I shouldn't be too harsh on Uriah Hall. Just he hasn't fought in a while, and, I want to see him get back out there and be the scrappy Uriah Hall that we're kind of used to, knocking people out and, being super strong and whatnot. But yeah, man. Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing Anderson Silva go fight in a different promotion with maybe some, if he's going to fight for another, let's say, year or 2 years, then, go fight in a different promotion against some guys that, aren't the best, I feel like.
Right. Or go compete in like some jiu-jitsu tournaments or something.
Absolutely.
A little bit less brutal. If they, I think there's even like, I don't know much about jiu-jitsu tournaments, but I think they have like different age brackets where you can still compete. I think Conor McGregor even came out and made a statement saying like people shouldn't force Anderson to quit doing something that he loves. Just find what's appropriate for your age group and then do what you love until you die, essentially is what he said.
Yeah.
So
it's the GFC, Geriatric Fighting Championship.
coin it now, buy the domain, let's start this up.
Let's get Ken Shamrock back in here. Let's get Royce Gracie. Let's do
Randy
it, man.
Couture.
Yeah, let's take it there.
Oh man, that's funny. So yeah, I mean, I think I think I don't know that we've even talked about it on the show yet, but the display of affection and respect and everything after the fight between Uriah Hall and Adesanya, between he and Anderson was very emotional. Like watching that, like almost brought a tear to my eye in a sense that like these guys were just bowing at each other, and Uriah Hall actually burst into tears. He did, and was like hugging Anderson, and they were like, hugging on each other, and Uriah Hall just knocking out someone he idolized growing up in the sport, for his last fight. Can you imagine the mixed emotions you're feeling? Like you feel terrible for putting out your idol that way for his last fight, but also excited that you just beat your idol, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot going on there. So for people who don't understand UFC or MMA and don't understand the level of sportsmanship and respect in the sport, I would just urge them all to watch that, because that exemplifies what the sport is all about, in my opinion. It's not about bashing each other's faces in and seeing who can break as many bones as possible and all these perceptions. While that is something that happens and that's what you have to do to win the fight, it's two guys out there putting their skills to the test. And at the end of the day, most of the time, where there are some feuds, obviously, the guys at the end are hanging out after the fights, in the hospital beside each other, just, a lot of respect. So really cool to see that.
Unless you're a Diaz brother.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool. So, Anderson on his way out of the UFC, I think it's time, we have another generation of fighters who, like Uriah Hall, have learned a lot from Anderson, watching him as they've grown up, have taken some of his style and put their own stamp on it. And now it's time to kind of leave their mark on the UFC. And who better right now than Israel Adesanya? And speaking of Israel, we've got some news officially that he and Jan Blachowicz have a matchup that was announced earlier this week. No date has been announced so far, but we're expecting early next year, I believe is what they're saying. And the betting, there's some betting happening already, and people are betting in favor of the champ to take down, the middleweight champ, to steal that light heavyweight belt. Thoughts from you, sir?
Wow. Yeah, man, this is a really interesting one. I think that Izzy could do it. I feel like he could do it, but it's a different game. These guys are a lot heavier, right? We got an extra, what is it, like 15, 20 pounds, I think it is. 20 pounds. I think it's 20 extra pounds.
Yeah, 20 pounds.
When you move up from, middleweight, which I believe is 185, to light heavyweight, which is 205. So we're talking about some meat, man. We got some meat on these guys. And Izzy's punches, however accurate they may be, may not feel the same to a Jan Blachowicz, who's used to getting punched by a Thiago Santos or somebody like that. Right. It's a really tough one, but I'm going to go with Izzy. I'm going to call Izzy. I think Jan Blachowicz kind of, was, I don't want to say it's like a fluke, but I think that there's two other guys there's one other guy that I certainly think deserves the belt more than Jan. Somebody that's already beat Jan, which we'll talk about later. But I think I was a little bit surprised even that Dominic Reyes got dominated in the way that he did. It was such a shocker to me. But
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being disrespectful to Jan and not counting him in, but Izzy's just so skillful, so smooth, man. I don't know. I want Izzy to be the the next best thing, right? Because who else is going to be the next best thing?
Yeah, I agree, man. And I agree with your prediction as well. I think Izzy can take that fight. I really, to be honest, need to go back and watch some more of Jan Blachowicz's fights before I could speak super intelligibly on it. But just looking at like his record and watching this last fight between he and Dominic, I just feel like he might be a little bit one dimensional. I don't know. I think he's got power. They call him Polish power. And I agree with you that he probably takes. It's going to take a lot for Izzy to do real damage to him. I feel like in that fight, but I think it's definitely possible. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So I don't know that we've really seen much of his groundwork in the UFC. I need to again kind of go back and kind of rewatch that. But I'm more interested in really just the strategic sort of matchmaking with the UFC right now. And it's the first thing that popped in my head was, why are they pitting Izzy against Jan instead of Jon Jones? That was the hype. All this hype about Izzy moving up to fight Jon Jones. But I did a lot of kind of like reading and different people's opinions, and I guess rewinding back a little bit, after Robert Whittaker beat Jared Cannonier a couple weeks ago, Dana came out and said that the plan was to make the fight between Robert and Izzy, make that rematch.
Yeah, right.
But then came out and said that Whittaker told him he wasn't ready for a title fight, which Dana said in quotes, "This is the craziest shit I've ever heard." And then Whittaker comes out later and explains, that's not what I said. He twisted my words around. And what I said was that I'm not ready to fight until March or April of next year. And it turns out that Robert Whittaker is actually expecting a child in January, another kid. And that's the reason why he wants to wait until, later or earlier next year, which honestly, we're in November right now. It's not really an unrealistic amount of time to ask for in between big fights like that, even though he didn't take a lot of damage against Jared Cannonier.
But 5 months, there's people that go for like a year between fights,
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really know what the rush is there, but some people are speculating that this really is a good story for the UFC. Izzy, let's just say Izzy does defeat Jan. He now holds 2 belts. He holds Jon's old belt for light heavyweight. And now Jon's got to come back and be the comeback kid and reclaim what is rightfully his. So it's a good story. It makes for a good movie plot. And then either Izzy wins and becomes the greatest of all time, or Jon takes it back and, sits back on his throne. So I can definitely see that angle.
I think that, I agree. It makes sense, but, I'm wondering if the reason why they didn't do a Jon Jones fight is because Jon is still wanting more money, and the numbers that they're giving him, he's not interested in. Or, is it, I haven't seen anything on, the heavyweight deal yet.
Yeah.
From last thing I heard, and we're not going to get into this right now, is Stipe is going to be fighting Francis, again. So, I mean, maybe Jon's just legitimately done, I feel like some big news is going to happen this month, right? Like, we're going to find out some more big news. And even with like the whole, pound for pound rankings going to Khabib, I would think that Jon would want to get back in the ring and, take out a guy like Stipe, or take out a guy like, Izzy, which I think certainly gives him, more of an argument for being in the top spot, even with the PEDs. Yeah. I don't really agree with him being in the top spot, but, that would give him more of an argument. But yeah, I don't know. There's just so much weird stuff going on right now with all of the people that are leaving, the changing of the guard, and there's just so much of that happening right now. You got DC left, Anderson left, Jon Jones left, and Izzy's there just to swallow up that belt, I feel like. But I'm just wondering, if he does take that belt, what's it going to look like when he fights Thiago Santos? Because I feel like Thiago should have the belt, if anybody.
I agree. I think the fight they should have made was Dominic versus Thiago. Obviously, Thiago's got a big fight coming up, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the comeback story sounds kind of cool. I do want to see those two fight at some point, Jon Jones and Izzy. I feel like that's stylistically a really great matchup, and there's a lot of beef that needs to be squashed there in the ring. And obviously, obviously, Jon doesn't need to have that comeback story to kind of keep himself relevant. But in fact, he can't stay out of the news. Actually, Jon Jones just 2 days ago posted on his Instagram page, which I wasn't sure if this was real or not at first, but it was a security cam footage of him chasing a potential robber, a bad guy, away from his house with a shotgun. Did you see this video?
Yeah, I was a little bit confused. Like, so this is just like a guy trying to steal his car, or is he just trying to like jack some stuff out of his car? Right? That's what it kind of looked like. Which,
yeah, it did.
It has happened to me, actually. I've had people break into my car before and steal like the change out of my center console. Just like, really, dude? Just like stuff like that.
You could have just asked me for $1. I would have given you $1.
Yeah, I would have given you everything you took. I don't even care. But
yeah. The worst that happened to me, I had my car broken into once in college, and I had this like pretty sweet setup sound system in my car at the time. I had like the 2 subwoofers, an amplifier, like all the speakers in the door replaced. This pretty cool like whatever they call it, head unit to power the whole thing. And somebody got into my car in one of the college parking lots, and the only thing they took was the faceplate for my head unit. So the thing that's got the buttons, the play, pause, fast forward, all those buttons to control the system. No. They just took that. That's the only thing they took. And like literally the amplifier to the sound system sat, which was really dumb of me, sat in the rear deck of the car. So like where the back seats of the car are, like the little rear deck right behind the back seats where the windshield comes down. That's where the amplifier was like screwed into and mounted. So if they wanted to, they could have like pulled out that amplifier that was probably worth a couple $100. Instead, all they did was take that faceplate off the thing.
They probably didn't realize what they were doing.
No, I probably didn't know how to get it out, but it's like, what a jerk move, man. Like now I can't use my sound system because you stole that thing. Like what?
Yeah.
But yeah, it looked like people were kind of rifling through his cars, which I think he had like a Range Rover in the driveway and some other like 3 or 4 different black cars in his driveway. And this person, you can't really see this person's face from the Ring video camera footage. You can't tell much about them, but this person was rifling through the cars, and it seems like an action movie. It seems like the beginning of a John Wick film. You see the garage door open slowly, and it's all lit up inside the garage. And it looks like John has like a training room set up in there or something with a couple of guys. But then you see Jon Jones just sprinting full speed out of his garage with a shotgun in his hand.
Yeah.
Chasing this dude down the street.
I think that's an absolutely horrible idea.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in here and say everything that happened there. So we know that John's a gun enthusiast, or at least that's what I've heard, is that he's a gun enthusiast. And so being a gun enthusiast, you have to make the assumption that he's probably gone through, training, concealed carry training and everything like that. And so his behavior in that video indicates to me that he just completely threw his training out the door, because training will tell you to be defensive, have your gun at the ready, but don't go chasing after people,
Right.
And if they're running away, certainly mission accomplished, because if they have a gun on them, his best bet would have been to get behind one of the cars and just keep an eye, keep his aim on the guy the whole time. And, I don't know what kind of bullets he had in there, if he had slugs or if he had buckshot, but, just be defensive, because, shit happens. And if that guy had a gun on him, he could have just been running away, shooting behind him or something. And
yeah, exactly.
Could have clipped Jon Jones and killed him. And,
easily.
Yeah. So that being said, was this a PR stunt? I mean, to me, I say yes, because because of his behavior and the fact that if he is a gun enthusiast, he would have done something different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there might have been like a director behind him saying, hey, let's do this, or, you know, something like that. But I don't know. It's tough to call. Am I being a conspiracy theorist? Maybe.
I have the same feelings about it. I totally agree with you. Number one, we were talking about this before the show. Just like, that's a terrible idea. You never do that. It's not worth all that. Like, why not just number one, he knew the guy was out there. He had the ring security camera footage. Clearly he knew the guy was out there to go grab his shotgun. Why not just stay in your house, protect your house, protect the people that are with you. You've got the guns, right? You've got all the money in the world. So if this dude even did get away with one of your cars, like, so what? Just call the cops. Just call the cops. Just protect yourself in your house until the cops arrive. Let them handle it, man. That's their job. You don't need to be vigilante justice out here chasing people around your neighborhood with a shotgun. But his post even said, ended up tapping on this guy's car window with the barrel of my shotgun tonight. He said it's something about like, luckily I know better to shoot somebody who's retreating or something like that. But just like, you didn't have to go that far, man. That was just dangerous and reckless of yourself. But the PR stunt thing, you know, I agree, man. Like, you know, you bring up a good point about the training thing. And it just all seems a little bit too convenient. And like, he just happens to be looking at the ring footage when this guy walks up and happens to have a shotgun, you know, ready that quick. It all happened within like a matter of like 15 seconds. And the garage door, he's there at the garage door with the lights on, and he just I don't know, it just seems a little bit too convenient.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but the convenience of him seeing the ring, you know, like, did it blink on? Did he get some kind of alert or something? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sure you probably do. I'm sure you probably do. If you think through the timeline, like, let's just say I'm sitting on my couch watching TV. I get a ring alert. John probably lives in a giant house. He's got to make his way to the garage, grab his shotgun, open up the door. All that takes like 15 seconds. Unless he just happened to be like training in that like little garage area when it all happened and had his gun right there ready. I don't know.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me, but
I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it does seem...
I'm growing more skeptical every
seems...
moment that we talk about it, you know?
We need to do some more research. There's probably some articles out there that have the same sentiment. See if we can find any research to back it up. Maybe we'll present that on Friday. But, you know, it wouldn't really be the first time we've questioned, is this a staged publicity stunt by a UFC fighter, considering you, I think, were the one who brought it up the last time, specifically about Conor's this charity event with Dustin Poirier. You're like, a little convenient that he just was in the news for a potential sexual assault case.
Right. And I mean, geez, speaking of Conor McGregor, I mean, look at the publicity stunt of him throwing, a trolley or a dolly into a bus, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that was a publicity stunt too, to build that fight up. And, so it's just like the WWE where they do this like fake, he bashed his head out in the parking lot. Ooh,
yeah.
You know, like, is that what it's turning into? Maybe.
I hope not.
I hope not too, but I hope that's not what the case is here for Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. I mean, I said this to you last time, I think, is that the $500,000, I think that's what he said, $500,000 donation to Dustin's charity was basically Conor, using his get out of jail free card because of the whole public indecency thing that happened like a week before this all went down. So how long has this been going on now? When did this even start? Right? Did they start talking about this like a month ago now? I can't remember.
I think it has been about a month ago when it first was a charity event, and then the UFC decided, whoa, we're not going to let this charity event fly under our radar. So then they booked it officially, or they started to try to book it officially, sending out contracts. But then towards the end of last week, it looked like it was official. The fight seemed to be a quote unquote done deal, according to Dana White. But then just yesterday, I think, or it may have been 2 days ago, Dustin actually sent out a tweet saying, or to UFC and Dana saying, send the right contract and stop playing games. So essentially, implying, you can infer a lot of different things from that, but implying that, maybe they aren't giving him what he wants for the fight. This could be another fighter pay situation. It's kind of hard to say. It could be nothing. Maybe Dustin was drunk that night and sent that tweet because it was later deleted. So who knows? Maybe he deleted it because they did send in the right contract, and so then he felt bad saying that. I don't know.
Maybe they sent him the Izzy versus Jon contract accidentally.
Whoopsies. Yeah.
Whoops.
Or
no, seriously, guys, send me the right one. This is the wrong one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is a recording of your daughter's like ballerina recital. Like, what is this? This is not a UFC contract. Or when I'm constantly. This happens almost every day at work. I send an email saying, "Please see the attached PDF," and then Google's like, "You said the word attached, but you forgot to attach something. Did you want to attach it?" And I'm like, "Oh yes, thank you, Gmail."
Thanks, Gmail. Yeah, same here. But so this is probably a money thing, right? Because Conor's the A fighter, probably getting paid buku dollars. And then you got Dustin, who's probably making just a very small portion of what Conor's making, I would assume. And then, well, I wonder if it's in the contract that Conor's going to be paying the $500,000. Like, is there any, like, if I was Dustin, I would want that to be like in the contract somehow, like, or at least have a contract between those two, just being like, hey, yeah, this is a contract between you and I. UFC's not involved at all, but after the completion of this fight, you're going to donate money to my, my charity, and but it's probably just Dustin not getting the amount of money that he thinks he deserves.
Yeah, it probably is. I hope that we can move past all this stuff at some point. Maybe once. I don't know if the zombie apocalypse ever concludes, and we get people back in seats. Hopefully, this fighter pay thing becomes a non-issue, but I don't think that's a reality. Even if everything goes back to quote unquote normal, I think the fighter pay issue has always existed. It just this brought more attention to it. I feel like once all this happened. I mean, I see some of these. They make public the payouts that people get for some of these fights, and it's just unrealistic. It's just unbelievable. But it is what it is, man. That's sports entertainment for you, I guess.
It'll evolve, I think, once all these people get onto like different management teams,
Yeah.
Gary V gets out there, he starts talking to Dana. All of a sudden, all these like B-rated fighters are making more than the champions,
Yeah. Oh, man, I forgot all about that. I'm glad you said that. I completely forgot Gary V's like in the fight game.
Yeah, man. He's I'm pretty sure he's managing Stipe right now and a couple others.
Really?
I'm pretty sure Stipe was one of them. I don't remember who the other ones were. There was only I think Corey Anderson was another one, but there was only like a couple big names that I recognize, and I'm pretty sure Stipe was like the biggest one that he had.
Yeah.
So
I remember we talked about that on the show like a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. Kind of throw back to one of those prior episodes, but it's not actually Gary V that's doing the management. He's just heading up the company that's like the management team basically. So, but whatever. It is what it is.
Vayner Sports.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, Vayner Sports, right? Yeah. So, I guess hopefully that fight gets put together. Everything goes smoothly, and before too long, we'll be seeing Conor McGregor fight against Dustin Poirier. The second round. I'm going to go with Conor on that one again. This is going to be a striking match, and I mean Conor's just got phenomenal striking. So
yeah, it's just very unorthodox. Dustin Poirier, it seems more traditional, like boxing style, and he has great stand up, but I just feel like Conor just outclasses him in so many different ways, and just in terms of the way he moves and. I don't know. His position is just the way his stance and everything is just so weird, which I'm sure Dustin could prepare for that, if given enough time. But I don't know. I guess time will tell. I'm excited to see that happen.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I wish I want to see another Conor versus Khabib, but that'll never happen. Anyway, moving on. We got a fight this weekend, November 7th. We got Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira. And, I was talking about Thiago earlier. I really feel like Thiago should be the champion right now. I feel like he beat Jon Jones. I really do feel like he beat Jon Jones, and I think it would have been a clear victory if not for him damaging both of his knees, both of the I don't know if it was ACL or MCL, but he damaged ligaments in his knees. I don't know if it was before the fight, but it certainly seemed like during the fight he injured both of his legs and had to get surgery on those. And I feel like if he was not hindered by his own body, then he certainly would have won that fight. And but that's not the case.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think he had Jon in trouble a couple of times, and then even after even fighting through those bad knees, like, it was still kind of a tough fight to call, honestly. There was a couple of close rounds. It really was.
Yep.
So
it's always the championship rounds where Jon Jones wins it for the judges. He does so well in those last two rounds, but
yeah,
we'll never know, I guess.
Yeah, or we might. If all this stuff with Izzy plays out and Jon Jones, just to say he gets that belt and Thiago wins his fight versus Glover and Jan loses against Izzy, then maybe one day it's in the cards. Who knows? But yeah, this fight should be interesting. I'm trying to remember Glover's. Yeah, his last fight was the round 5 TKO. Such a hard fight to watch against Anthony Smith. Poor Anthony Smith. This dude, he's like a likable guy, and he just can't pull together a win. I feel bad for him.
I do too, because he was like at the top of his game like not even that long ago. I feel like he fought Jon Jones, and before his Jon Jones fight, he was on a roll. He was tearing people up. Yeah. And then they threw him in there with Jon, and
he just lost his mojo. He left his mojo in that ring.
Yeah, he did. It was like round 2. You could just see the mojo slip out of his body. He was like, all right, no more mojo. And it's been like that ever since. He's just, it's just not there anymore. So, but we're not talking about Anthony right now. We're talking about Glover. I think Glover's on a 4-fight winning streak. And, he's got excellent ground and pound. He's a jiu-jitsu specialist. So this is going to be interesting, where you have a very strong striker in Thiago Santos. Glover has historically done poorly against strong strikers. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I'm going to go with Thiago Santos on this one. I think he'll probably take this one home. I think it'll be over quick. I think it'll be over in the first 2 rounds via knockout or TKO. But you can't count Glover out. If he gets Thiago down to the ground with Thiago's bad knees, then Glover might be able to dominate Thiago on the ground. I don't really know how Thiago's ground game is because I haven't seen him fight too much. But I do know that if Thiago does win, he certainly should be in line for the fight for the belt, because he beat Jan Blachowicz back in January of 2019.
Right.
2 years ago now. TKO in the 3rd round, just clipped him and then hammer fisted Jan Blachowicz on the ground like 20 times before the ref stopped it. But yeah, I'd be interested to see them fight again. Was it luck that he knocked out Jan, or will we see the same happen again?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. This should be a fun one to watch for sure. I'm looking at Thiago Santos' last few fights over the last few years. Like, I don't think he's had that much of a challenge. Like, I'm looking at some of these names, and in light heavyweight, he fought Jimmy Manoa, won that fight, and a guy named Eric Anders. Like, these aren't like big name people.
Eric Anders was a prior NFL football star.
Oh, was he?
Well, he was in the NFL. I don't know if I should call him a star. I actually met him in person when I went to the UFC event where Yar Rosenstruck knocked out what's his name? Busted his lip open.
Oh, yeah. Alistair
Overeem. Alistair Overeem. I actually met Anders there. But yeah, I mean, he's no slouch, really. I mean, and neither is Jimmy Manuwa. Jimmy Manuwa is not really a slouch. I wouldn't say that they're huge challenges, but they're certainly like, no slouches. But the fact that he knocked out Jan and did what he did to Jon Jones, I think that right there is probably proof that, he's a solid contender and potential champion.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Glover Teixeira has definitely got some names under his belt too. Ian Kutalaba, Nikita Krylov, and of course Anthony Smith. So
right, and I mean he went in there with the big dogs. He's fought against DC. He fought against Anthony Smith, Anthony Rumble Johnson. I'm sorry, he couldn't quite take the victories on those guys, but. He's fought against all the big names and held his own.
He actually fought Rampage back in 2013.
And then, he fought Rampage. No way, man. This guy's been around for a long time now.
He actually fought Jon Jones at light heavyweight back in 2014.
But he didn't win that one, right?
No.
I think Jon was the champ at that point, or?
Potentially. I don't remember, actually.
But I mean, Glover's been around, man, for a long time. He's got solid, solid experience in the ring. So
he has a round 1 knockout over Rashad Evans. So yeah, I mean, you're right. He's been out there. So This should be a good one, man. I'm excited to see this for sure. I'll definitely be watching that one. It's a weird start time. The main event doesn't start until 10 p.m. Eastern. On Saturday, where last week it started at 7 p.m. Eastern. So you got to watch out for these time slots. If you plan on catching these fights, make sure you pay close attention and keep switching it up on us. And I'm definitely been disappointed to see that most of these fights haven't been on TV. Fortunately, I subscribed to ESPN Plus so I can catch all these fight nights. Right. But for whatever reason, they haven't actually been on ESPN. I guess they're just trying to drive up those ESPN Plus subscriptions.
Yeah, that's a good... that's a good thought, good theory. I'm pretty sure you're right about that. They're trying to get those the subs up there, and I just wish they would have, they would have way more people subscribing to ESPN Plus if they just put all the events on there. They'd probably make up for the sales. Oh, but yeah. Who knows?
Or like just a discount to ESPN Plus subscribers. Like $70 is just an unreal amount of money to ask for these pay-per-view events, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually broke down and never mind. I just wish that they would decrease the price, man,
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to put up that much money for a fight, especially now when you're social distancing and you can't have a party at your house where it's like, yo, dude, come over. We'll watch the fight and we'll split it. We'll split it 4 ways or whatever. Now it's just everybody
chip in
at home.
$5, right?
Yeah, and you don't really want to go out to the bars or restaurants. You could, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. I think they should reconsider that. But it's just like video games. Video games have been $60 like since I can remember buying video games. The price hasn't gone up or down for whatever reason. I don't really foresee the prices changing. I do wish there was just some sort of like I already pay. I think it's only like $5 a month or something like that for ESPN Plus, but at the end of the year that's $60. So why don't you give me like a 10% discount on the fights or something? That'd be cool.
I can justify buying a video game, right? Because I'm going to spend, think about it. Like you spend $15 to go see a movie, right? And you spend $60 to go play a video game. Well, if you spend more than 8 hours on that video game, then it's basically the same as, the amount of entertainment you would get by watching a movie. But $60 for, a 2-hour event, it's really hard to justify that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when there's as many pay-per-views as there have been this year.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure the exact count, but I feel like there's been at least like we're probably pushing 10 events this year.
Yep.
I don't know for sure, but anyways,
I have to look at it.
A little rabbit hole, but
little tangent there, but I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so just real quick, everybody, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast player. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you really want to help us grow. We would certainly appreciate it if you shared this episode with a friend. As always, we appreciate your support, and we thank you all for being here.
Yes, absolutely, and we'll see you guys on Friday. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming up for the podcast, some guest episodes that I don't want to spill the beans on just yet, but just keep your eyes peeled. We got some good stuff coming up. But until then, we'll see you guys next time.